CC guest or OS guest?
Not yet. Hang on a second.
CC guest.
We're live.
What's your first password?
I'm trying to get on the internet. Are they on the internet? Does it matter?
I got this right here. I'll get it. Get everything going.
Last answer, CC guest. I didn't get to work on that, so.
Just a second. Got this with Do you get them?
I got it. Thank you.
All right. Everybody mind? I'm going to call this meeting to order. I want to announce that all the aldermen are present at this time. And if you don't mind, Mr. Stephen Gloriuso will lead us in the invocation, and Mr. Matthew Hinton will lead us in the pledge.
Everybody, please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for overcoming the world with the power of your sacrifice on the cross. Because of the victory now I have in you. Help me to remember that I don't have to worry or be afraid. In the moments when life is filled with trouble and heartache, fill me with your inner peace. Remind me that with you I can do all things through your strength. And may your peace and joy guide me each day. In Christ's name we pray.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple proclamations to give tonight.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'm sorry, Rob, jumped the ship. We got a motion by Alderman Blackman, second by Alderman Pfeiffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we'll move on. We got a couple of proclamations tonight, one for the National Day of Prayer and one for the Junior Auxiliary. We will take care of that. Miss Ginger, are you in the... There she is. Absolutely, real up. There you go. I did have to holler. Okay, we got a proclamation for National Day of Prayer, May 7th, 2026. Whereas throughout the history of the United States, Americans have turned to prayer in every generation, seeking guidance, protection, and provision, and asking for continued blessings upon our nation. And whereas from the earliest days of our country, including the Mayflower Compact, the Declaration of Independence, and the formation of our state constitution, acknowledgement of divine providence has been woven into the foundation of our national heritage. Whereas the National Day of Prayer was established by public law in 1952, signed by President Harry S. Truman, and later amended in 1988 by President Ronald Reagan, designating the first Thursday in May of each year as a day for Americans to unite in prayer and reflection. And whereas on Thursday, May 7th, 2026, citizens in Ocean Springs and across the nation will observe the National Day of Prayer under the theme, Glorify God Among the Nations, Seeking Him in All Generations, inspired by 1 Chronicles 16:24, tell of His glory among the nations, His wonderful deeds among all the peoples. And whereas this observance provides an opportunity for individuals, families, churches, and community organizations to come together in prayer for our city, state, and nation. Now therefore, I, Bobby Cox, Mayor of the City of Ocean Springs, do hereby proclaim May 7th, 2026 as National Day of Prayer in the City of Ocean Springs, and encourage all citizens to observe this day in accordance with their faith and tradition, joining in prayer for our community and our nation. Thank you.
I would just like to say that this group of outstanding young people belong to the Hounds for Christ at Ocean Springs High School, and we are partnering with them to have this event at the Greyhound Stadium on May the 7th, and we want to invite all of you to come.
Ever since we started having that at the Greyhound Stadium, I think the crowds have grown every year, wouldn't you say, Ms. Ginger?
Yes.
It's really been nice. We can get everybody there to pray with us. All right, we also had the National Junior Auxiliary Week. Do we have a Junior Auxiliary? Yes, ma'am. And you are Brianna and Shelley Law. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you.
We have, in celebration of the National Junior Auxiliary Week, April 6th through 10th, 2026, whereas the Junior Auxiliary of Biloxi Ocean Springs, a chapter serving Biloxi Ocean Springs and the surrounding community, as part of the 85-year National Association of Junior Auxiliaries Incorporated, represents a meaningful commitment by women to be active and constructive participants in their community and to assume responsibility, leadership in addressing community needs. And whereas the mission of the National Association of Junior Auxiliaries is to encourage member chapters to provide charitable services beneficial to the general public, with particular emphasis on children while cooperating with other organizations performing similar services. And whereas the Junior Auxiliary of Ocean Springs, Biloxi Ocean Springs, has faithfully served the Biloxi Ocean Springs area since 1965, working diligently to fulfill this mission, and the community greatly values and appreciates its continued dedication and impact. Now therefore be it proclaimed, I, Bobby Cox, Mayor of the City of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, do hereby designate the week of April 6th through the 10th, 2026, as Junior Auxiliary Week in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, sponsored by the National Association of Junior Auxiliaries, and urge all citizens, civic and fraternal organizations, news media, and community groups to join in recognition and honoring Junior Auxiliary volunteers for their long-standing service and positive contributions to our community. Thank you all very much.
I just wanted to say we are very grateful to serve the children and their families in the city of Ocean Springs and along our other service areas along the Gulf Coast. We would like to invite you all to attend our annual gala for the kids. It's on Saturday, June 20th at the Borough Lodge.
Thank you. Where it has that. You get that where it has where? You got it. Okay, now we have some presentations. First presentation will be JCUA report. Executive Director, Mr. Eric Page, and our representative, Mr. Jerry Monroe. Thank you all for being here.
Thank y'all for having us. I'm Jerry Monroe. I'm the appointed representative by the City of Ocean Springs to be on the JCUA board. I've been coming, y'all see me in here, I've been coming to several meetings, and there's been a lot of talk about wanting to have a moratorium, and do we have the wherewithal to take care of sewage and water for the City of Ocean Springs, and I just felt that we need to get the facts out to you. So I reached out to our executive director and asked him and our staff to put together some facts and figures of the Ocean Springs the growth of Ocean Springs and show us where we are and where we're going, and also our ability to be able to provide water and take care of your sewer needs for the city. And also show you over a period of time that I&I, which is what we call, that's the intrusion, the inundation of our water lines from old pipes and stuff, that the city has done an admirable job over the years of being able to line the pipes, and they're light years ahead of their neighbors with stopping this. And this will come out in the presentation. I have a hard copy here if you want it for your records. Would that help y'all? And then y'all have a video copy. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Eric Page. He is our executive director, and he's going to walk you through the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you.
Presuming Sarah.
It's gonna have to stay on this screen.
That's
I don't
fine.
know why our presentation.
I did provide a rough draft copy on Wednesday, so it could be included in the packet. Now, this is a slightly modified format. I got some additional information after that, so I wanted to include that for you. If you'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Just the primary issue that I believe that you've been discussing is inflow and infiltration I&I. Just, you already know basically what it is. It's just, this is a recap of what it is, why it matters, and where it comes from. One of the primary sources of I&I, it's not just your piping in the ground. And what a lot of people don't understand is nationally between 10 and 80%. I understand that's a big range, depends upon the systems, but roughly 40 to 50% of most systems I&I is nothing you have control over. If you go ahead and go to the next slide. It's the, and I wish this was larger so that you could see everything, but the private service laterals is the primary source for I&I for most cities. Now, you have uncapped cleanouts, you have roof drains, you have foundation drains tied into your sewer services. And Alan can tell you, you have some older houses that have not just PVC pipe, and not just galvanized or iron pipe, but Orangeburg or clay pipe. Clay pipe's fine. The only problem is the joints typically have very poor gaskets. And if you're not familiar with Orangeburg, if you can envision Christmas wrapping paper tubes, it's basically an impregnated cardboard, which would be fine if it wasn't for the presence of water that causes it to degrade over time and compress. And then it was no longer manufactured as of 1973, but prior to 1973 in towns that are older, it was highly used. Unfortunately, Ocean Springs is an older town, so as you can imagine, ask Alan, you've got it all over town, especially in the older parts of the town. So a big issue for I&I for you is likely things that you have no control over. So you do need to do what you can to control what you can. And you'll advance there. So brick manholes, you have some. If you go to the next one. You have leaking pipes. Every city has some. It's just a question of to what degree and what are you doing to fix it. If you go ahead and go to the next one. Now, you have your roof drains, uncapped sewer cleanouts. If you'll keep going. Now, I&I is an issue. The other issue with your sewer capacity is growth. So if you go ahead and go to the next slide. Looking at the growth in and around Ocean Springs, for those of us that live here or live in the area, you can see it. It's evident, it's real, you feel it as you're driving around. I just grabbed a couple of headlines that were easy to grab. But if you'll go ahead and go to the next one. Looking at the actual figures on population growth in Ocean Springs, you can see from 2000 to 2025, and these numbers come from the census .gov website, so these are actual numbers for every 10 years. Now, every 5 years they do an estimate, but the latest estimate from 2025 is Ocean Springs is around 19,100. From 2000, it was a little over 17,000, which is roughly 11% growth over that time period within the city limits, which is 0.5% annualized rate of growth, which is pretty stable. It's a slow rate of growth, but it denotes a mostly stable, growing, healthy city. Now, if you look outside of the city limits, St. Martin, and these are census designated places, which the census blocks. So if I say St. Martin or if I say Gulf Park Estates, it may be more than Gulf Park Estates. For example, Gulf Park Estates includes South Point, St. Andrews, those surrounding areas are included in the Gulf Park Estates number as documented by the U.S. Census. But you can see in those areas, you average between 55 and 58, 80% growth in those areas. So you take the metropolitan, if you will, Ocean Springs area, which in 2000 was 38,000 people, as of right now is 51,000 people roughly, which is a significant growth of around 32% over that time period. At the bottom, you may or may not be able to see it, there are only 3 cities in Mississippi that have a population of over 50,000. You've got Jackson, you've got South Haven, and you've got Gulfport. That's it. You can look at the census data. Biloxi has, there are a lot of cities that have been fluctuating. Biloxi has 49,500, give or take. And there's a lot right at the cusp of being over 50, but none over 50 except for those 3. If the city of Ocean Springs, population-wise, included these surrounding areas, you would be the 3rd largest city in Mississippi. So there is growth and it is an issue, but if you'll go ahead and go to the next slide. How has that impacted the city of Ocean Springs? What this graph represents is the measured wastewater flow that we have received from the city of Ocean Springs since 2007. That may seem like an odd year, but that's in going back and trying to capture the data. There was this event right after 2005 that made data hard to find because our office in downtown Pascagoula kind of got mostly destroyed and waterlogged. So I don't have data prior to 2006, but from 2007 on, you can see that it's pretty flat. It goes from a low of around 1.4 million gallons per day, and these are monthly averages. 1.4 million gallons per day up to just over 2.5 million gallons per day. So if you go ahead, Sarah, to the next slide. Now, if you superimpose the average rainfall per month on this chart, you can see a clear correlation between rainfall and the flow. So there is an I&I component to this, and it's not insignificant, but you can see the dry months where your flow tends to bottom out at around 1.4 to 1.5 million gallons per day average flow. And then you have your extreme wet months, and then that flow will jump up. So the way JCUA does our billing is you're not billed directly on your rate of flow per se, but it's a back calculated amount based upon the percentage of the total in Jackson County that you are compared to Pascagoula, Moss Point, Goshen, West Jackson County Utility District, Helena Utility District, and then JCUA's retail portion. So as that goes up and down, that's one reason why you see your percentages fluctuate, because the older systems that have large gravity sewer tends to fluctuate more than your systems that are primarily pressure sewer, such as West Jackson County Utility District has some gravity sewer, but the majority of it is pressure. So it doesn't see quite as big a swing as Pascagoula and Ocean Springs, which are older systems. Even Goshen, being a somewhat newer system, doesn't quite see the changes that you have here. So if you'll go to the next slide, Sarah. I put a trend line on the wastewater flow, and that black dashed line actually represents the trend line of the wastewater that we have received over the last 20 plus years. And you can see it's slightly decreasing. And you may say, well, how is that possible that the population has gone up, but that wastewater that we've received has slightly gone down? There's 2 options. Either you have massive holes in your pipes causing excessive leaking into the bayous, which should be seen if that were the case, or you've done something to manage your overall wastewater flow. If you'll go to the next page. So if you look on the left, that pink stuff, and this is anecdotal, I don't have hard numbers on how many projects and what you've done. I came back to the coast in 2012, and I worked as a consulting engineer in the area for 7 years before I came to the utility authority. I came to Ocean Springs and visited with Alan and Johnny and some others as the SpectraShield process was being done, because I personally never done. I've done a lot of epoxy linings and various coatings to rehab manholes, but Ocean Springs had an extensive process through several projects, and you've done quite a bit of manhole rehab. Those brick manhole pictures, that picture that I showed you, you've got a lot of old manholes, and that SpectraShield lining, you did a good job of taking care of some of those issues. CIPP lining, cured in place pipe. It's a trenchless rehabilitation process where you can go in and basically with a sock-like material that's impregnated with rosin, you can line pipes without having to do open cut excavations of roads. And you did quite a few thousand feet of that back in the mid-2010s. Again, I can't tell you names of projects, this is all anecdotal, it's what I saw and observed, but you did a decent amount of that, and I think that's likely one of the reasons you saw that number slightly reduced. The other reason why I think you haven't, if you'll go to the next slide, the other reason I think you haven't been greatly impacted is your growth areas. But on the drinking water side, what is the intent for drinking water? It's maintaining reliable, safe, appealing, and affordable water, especially in Jackson County. We're very familiar with the aspect of the water may or may not be cheap, it may or may not be a pleasant odor, it may or may not be a pleasant color, but those are all factors in what you want when you're trying to supply drinking water. Now, the challenge is, there's a lot of new challenges in drinking water that weren't present 20, 30 years ago. One of them is cost. Chlorination is the typical process whereby you treat drinking water, especially groundwater in this area. Well, you may or may not know, but several years ago, chlorine costs with the plant in Houston going down and hurricane in Florida, the price of chlorine just about tripled. So that greatly impacted cost for a lot of utilities in this area. You also have changing water quality standards, PFAS, perfluoral alkyl substances, microplastics, the lead and copper rule. Alan can tell you all about that. You have to go out and inventory all of the private services in Ocean Springs as to whether or not they contain galvanized pipe. What type of pipe is it? Is it copper? Is it something that might leach zinc or manganese or some other metal into your waterway? What drove that? Well, the Flint, Michigan crisis is really what drove EPA to start mandating some of this. You have funding pressures and you have workforce challenges. A lot of municipalities and utilities are dealing with issues where you have an aging workforce that's on the cusp of retirement or is retiring, and so you have all that to deal with. If you go to the next. This is your most recent health department inspection by the health department regional engineer. It's just the top of the first page. And there at the bottom, you see your overall capacity rating is a 5.0 out of 5. It's an older judgment system where they come in and they review operational, managerial, technical, how you're taking care of things, and the highest you could score is 5. Well, you see, you've got a 5. That's great. That's good. That speaks well of your staff. However, this year, the report that you receive will be on a different grading system. The health department decided that boards and the public may or may not understand, well, I got a 4.7 out of 5. Is that good? Is that not good? So it's going to be on a 100 scale, and they're going to give you a letter grade. So if you don't have a backup drinking water supply, for example, that'll be a 3-point deduction. So if everything else is perfect, you may score 97 out of 100, and it'll say A on the top of your report. But it'll give you and the public a little bit easier understanding, if you will, of how your system is doing. Now, I did highlight on this, the population served says 26,168. So if you look at this report, you may say, well, I thought you said our population was 19,000 and something. I did. Now, your drinking water system has something called equivalent connections. So if you have a hospital, if you have schools, if you have regional things that you supply water to, the amount of connections for that one entity is increased based upon the population at each of those facilities. So you have school district, which is bigger than your city limits, so those students that are coming into your school system increase that number. Your hospital, that increases that number. So that just wanted to, if anybody has a question about, well, why is that number bigger than our population, that's the reason why, is because of the calculation for equivalent connections. If you go to the next slide, Sarah. Now, on the last page of the report, you'll see the capacity calculation. Now, if you look at the top of it on the far right, you'll see that the percent design capacity is 97.2%, which means you're pushing right up at the limit where they don't allow a connection to be made anymore. Now, if you'll see on about that 6th line where that arrow is pointing over on the left, it says purchasing 1,000 gallons per minute from Jackson County Utility Authority. In 2008, I believe, the city of Ocean Springs entered into a contract with JCUA to purchase wholesale water from JCUA. That contract was revised, we revised it in 2020, and we revised it again in 2023. And that number of 1,000 was actually increased to a capacity allocation of 1,500 gallons per minute. So if you look at the bottom of the page, the health department engineer hadn't updated her records. However, your actual capacity calculation would be around 89.6%. Now, the health department says that if you're at 85% or higher, they're going to require you to be in the planning phase for how you're going to increase your available capacity to meet any coming demands or needs that you may have. Now, the way that you can meet those demands and that need is a variety of sources. You can start planning now to do a well. You can start planning to purchase water. I mean, whatever the case may be, but if you'll go to the next slide. I included, so that you can see, just this goes back to 2018. This is how much wholesale drinking water you've actually purchased from JCUA since that time period. And you can see the lower end of what actually flowed to the city is around 10 million gallons a month. And the upper bound there's just over 30 million gallons a month. Now, most people may or may not be aware where I live on Ocean Springs Road, and most of my water is JCUA's water, even though I live right behind the hospital. And I tell people all that time, and they're like, no, I'm on the city system. Yes, you are, but the eastern end of the city is primarily served by JCUA flowing into the city there at Sunplex where it's metered. Now, if you'll see close to the end of that, in October or so of 2025, you see the number really go down. Working with your operators, we reworked the set points a little bit on how much we're flowing to you. That's also the time period where we began running water to Great River. Now, Gulf Park Estates, we are not 100% the source for Gulf Park Estates yet, but the Ocean Beach Estates is a separate system. We're 100% flowing to Ocean Beach Estates on the southeast part of Gulf Park Estates. There's a southern Gulf Park Estates connection where we're flowing water to the southern portion of Gulf Park Estates. We currently have a project ongoing that should be complete in July that will provide water to the north part of Gulf Park Estates and to Palmetto Point. So all of the water in Gulf Park Estates, Palmetto Point, and Ocean Beach Estates by August should be JCUA water, solely furnished by us. It won't impact this, but that slight change in pressure is like what I think anecdotally the reason why that change in October happened. So if there's a need for additional water, you have the availability. It would just be something that we would need to discuss and negotiate as to what do you need, so that if you had immediate need, then that would be able to be resolved without some massive scrambling or emergency declaration of some type. Now, like I said, 2023 was the last time we revised the contract. I've already shared with a couple of the aldermen and the mayor. We had a meeting here. It seems like 2 years ago, but I know it was only a few months back now, where I shared that in 2028, JCUA is going to look to revise the cost for our wholesale water that we send to you. Currently, we went through and did an analysis of what it's costing us to produce water, and Great River, the contract we have with them, is for that cost, and it's roughly $1.40 per thousand. The amount that we have that we're charging you right now is 62.5 cents per thousand. So we're essentially subsidizing the city of Ocean Springs through our old contract, but it's somewhat beneficial to us because it allows us to have water that's being run through our pipes and not just we have to dump it on the ground somewhere. So it's not a complete loss to us, but we are running it currently at a bit of a net loss, but that's just the way the water system has been operating. But in 2028, I do want to make you aware, in plenty of time, that we are going to come with the intent to renegotiate that contract for the actual cost that's costing us to provide it, not a cost below that. If you'll go to the next slide. Now, area water and sewer service providers, growth has happened in Ocean Springs, but the majority of the traffic that I see on Old Spanish Trail by the middle school, the majority of the traffic I see on 609 by the Fort Bayou Bridge, may or may not be Ocean Springs residents. It's probably the people that live around Ocean Springs that say, I live in Ocean Springs. But no, you don't. You live in Gulf Park Estates. Or no, you don't. you live in St. Martin or Gulf Hills or south part of Latimer. And that's fine, you can say you live in Ocean Springs, but as far as who your service provider is at your house, you can see on this map where your high growth areas are. Gulf Hills, St. Martin, West Jackson County Utility District is actually the water sewer service provider. South side of Ocean Springs, Gulf Park Estates, Great River is the service provider. JCUA also provides service on the south and the east side of the City of Ocean Springs. Actually, the recently annexed area, Palmetto Point, that's serviced by Great River. We provide service to the high school and St. Andrews and South Point. The east side of what you just annexed, Ms. Messenger's area, JCUA is providing the sewer service to that area, whereas the city has the water certificate because you were already providing water service to that area. But the good thing about this is, as you have had growth around the city hasn't been inundated with issues relative to your water and sewer systems because others have been picking up that slack, so to speak, which is a good thing. That allows you to continue growing, have economic development initiatives. But if you go to the next slide, I will say this is where the consulting engineer in me would come out. Ocean Springs is not currently seeing large upswings in water and sewer usage, but there should be an ongoing capital improvements plan that includes each of these elements from facilities, parks and rec, stormwater drainage, water distribution, water supply, sewer. And this is where I would normally say, and how can I help you do that as a possible consultant offering? But I'm not in that position. I do what you want. Do it how you want to do it, but I would caution after 20 plus years as a consulting engineer for cities all across South Mississippi, if you don't have an ongoing continued plan, you're going to be setting up your public works department for a lot of issues. He can only do what y'all enable him to do, and not just him, but his entire department. You need to have some type of plan in place for how you're going to manage and grow in a sustainable atmosphere. Now, people talk about the life expectancy of your infrastructure. Pipe has been in the ground. I mean, it's possible that there are portions of Ocean Springs that have water pipes that are actually old wood timbers. I've seen them, not in Ocean Springs, but I was over 10 years in Laurel, Mississippi, and doing some road projects. We dug up where we knew there was a water line, and lo and behold, it was actually old timbers that had been hollowed out and were still in use. So there's no way to quantify. Somebody may say, well, this has only got 30 to 50 year life expectancy. Well, that may or may not be true, but your infrastructure doesn't just suddenly stop working at a certain point. I would say the areas that you have issues, asbestos cement water lines. The word asbestos scares people. There's no problem with asbestos cement water line as long as you don't touch it. The only problem with it is when you tell Alan, hey, I need a tap on this line, and that pipe is very brittle, and it is very problematic if there's ever a break on it to go in and do a repair, because you'll repair it, and then 3 feet behind your repair, it will break, and then 3 feet behind that repair, it'll break. So if you can replace it, great. If you can leave it alone, great. People talk about PVC piping issues and whether or not that's problematic with microplastics. As of this time, PVC pipe is the best pipe for our area for the soil corrosivity, which most people aren't aware of, but we have highly corrosive soils and highly acidic soils. I wasn't aware of that until I came back to Jackson County to work professionally. If you put ductile iron pipe in the ground, that's great. Unfortunately, 30, 40 years from now, the ductile iron pipe may be as thin as a piece of paper just because it's been attacked by the soil. Personally, PVC pipe, HDPE pipe are great, may have a 100-year service life if they're properly taken care of and covered. Be aware of what your issues are, but don't be afraid, or don't let the public necessarily through, I'll say the word ignorance, not out of a lack of knowledge or awareness, but out of they've been led to be triggered by certain words like asbestos or microplastics. So if you're putting plastic pipe in the ground, there is zero demonstrated industry knowledge that PVC or HDPE cause any issues. Recently I saw a study that said that there's more microplastics present in glass water bottles than there is in plastic water bottles. So take that for what you will. But I wanted to share with you some of the findings that I had as Jerry asked me to evaluate this. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them now or later. I think if you don't have my contact info, I know several of you do, and you can easily get it from Christine or Sarah or Alan or Bobby.
Well, Eric, I want to thank y'all for coming and giving us a report and appreciate that. Our capital improvements plans, we are reviewing all the studies that we've had done in the past, and Public Works is reviewing those now, going over what all we have done, what needs to be done, what we haven't gotten to, and we will be addressing that moving forward. I definitely learned something new. I sure didn't know there were wooden pipes hollowed out that was running water to communities. That's
And you probably have a lot more terracotta sewer pipe than you would anticipate.
Yeah.
The old clay, it looks like a flower pot. There's a lot of that in the ground.
Well, we've lined a lot of pipes with the slip lining, and they continue to do so today. I mean, they're out doing it now, so we're trying to catch up on the manholes, the brick line, the brick manholes. I know those are bad, and I know Sarah and Alan's been trying to keep up with all of it, but thank y'all. Does anybody have any questions for Eric?
I have a question. Would you explain to everybody what the JCUA is? Because a lot of times we hear Jackson County, we think it's a county owned, but it's actually a private entity, if you don't mind just explaining.
It's technically not a private entity. Would you like the 2-minute answer or the 1-hour answer? In 1981, after the Clean Water Act was passed by the federal government, by the EPA, there were a slew of wastewater treatment plants built all over the country from 1972 to 1981. The federal government gave a little over $60 million to Mississippi to establish the Mississippi Gulf Coast Regional Wastewater Authority. It was to be for all 3 counties. Through some political machinations and some wrangling, Harrison County and Hancock County dropped out of it. So luckily for Jackson County got the full benefit of that $60+ million, in which case the Mississippi Gulf Coast Regional Wastewater Authority purchased all of the sewer treatment entities from Pascagoula, Ocean Springs, the package plants and whatnot, and then built new plants in Pascagoula on top of the old plant that had been built in the 1940s at the animal food processing plant. Built a new plant in West Jackson County on Seaman Road. Built a new plant in Goshen off of Lewis Alexis Trail just south of Martin Bluff Road. Built a new plant in Escataba off of Dutch Bayou. So that money, thankfully, the other county said we don't want anything to do with it, but in 1981, the Mississippi Gulf Coast Regional Wastewater Authority came to be. After Hurricane Katrina, the state legislature decided that the 6 coastal counties, through the devastation, needed a regional water and sewer entity to help oversee those localities. The Health Department, DEQ, have been trying to go to a centralization approach for the last 40 years. And I think they saw this as an opportunity to help propel that. George County, through some wrangling, fought and got excluded from it, but the 5 coastal counties, excluding George County, were included. Since Jackson County already had a sewer entity treating the wastewater, the Mississippi Gulf Coast Regional Wastewater Authority, it was reconstituted as the Jackson County Utility Authority. So the Jackson County Utility Authority handles all wastewater treatment, all centralized wastewater treatment within Jackson County. I have to say centralized because if you have an individual on-site wastewater disposal system, most people just think septic tanks, but there's a lot of different applications. Then those are not overseen by us. Those are handled by the Mississippi Department of Health. But we do have a lot of water and sewer lines that were built at the direction of Mississippi around the county, where we now supply water and sewer to our own retail customers. We supply wholesale water to the City of Ocean Springs Helena Utility District, and we also handle the wastewater permitting and some environmental compliance issues around the county. We are not a private entity, we are a governmental entity created by the state, but we are not associated with the county. So when you say Jackson County Utility Authority, a lot of people think that we're a branch of Jackson County. We are not. We're a distinct political subdivision created by the state to operate within Jackson County. Independently, but everywhere that there is not a existing water or sewer franchise. So That's why when you annexed a few years ago, we were already there, so we maintained that service area even though you annexed into that area, which is not uncommon around the state. If you go to Hattiesburg, there's like 6 different water and sewer systems that provide water service within the city limits of Hattiesburg. A lot of people regionally and locally don't understand. They think if you annex, that means you have to take over the utilities. It's just not so. It's just anecdotally, people think that to be the case. So, but that's what JCUA is.
So it's not a profit-driven entity?
No, sir. We are a governmental entity, just like the city of Ocean Springs, to serve the community and the environment to the best of our ability, shepherding and stewarding those resources as best we can while doing our best to cost-effectively improve the environment. Publicly, I've been asked not to say some things by some individuals because I'm pretty transparent, and I've talked about the situation in our public waterways and the deplorable state of the intericaki levels, which are a human fecal waste indicator, and the fact that we have roughly maybe 50 to 60% of the septic tanks in Jackson County, as of a 1998 study, were shown to have already failed. They haven't gotten better in the last 30 years, so I don't know what the status of those are, but when we go in an area and we try to do improvements, we've never mandated that anyone connect, with the exclusion of 2 instances. Prior to my coming on board the utility authority, Ocean Beach Estates, there was a lot of sewage just going into the sound, so the state gave JCUA money to improve the sewage in that area, so there was a mandated connection through the state's program. And in Big Hill Acres, I think most of us are aware of the environmental disaster that was. And I wasn't here at the time, but I thank God that JCUA was here, because if not, those properties would have had to be condemned and those homeowners would have been forced off their property. And I've talked to some recently that complained, well, you made me get on your system. No, we didn't, but the EPA said if we weren't here, you would have had to have moved, but you just don't understand that because you just bought 2 years ago. So there's a loss of knowledge and availability of information, but I've not heard much publicly good about us, but that's okay. I'd rather be under the radar anyway, and that's fine.
Well, I think the magic question you received, what, you said $60 million?
In 1981, the federal government through the EPA gave $62.5 million for the creation of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Regional Wastewater Authority, which was used to purchase from the cities and the entities that had wastewater treatment systems, those from them, and to build new systems. And that was all done in the early 80s.
How come you said the cost of the water is $1.40?
You're being charged 62.5 cents per thousand for everything above 6 million gallons. You're paying roughly $7,500 per month for use of the first 6 million gallons that you use.
And then how come the cost is so much higher than you said you're giving it to us at a discount?
The original contract written in 2008 had an escalation clause that said it couldn't go up more than a certain percentage over a 5-year period. And if you'll recall, from 2008 to 2025, inflation was not 3% per year. It was pretty robust. And I urged my board, Jerry can tell you, I urged my board a couple of years ago to violate our contract, void the contract, and start charging what our costs were. But the board said we are never going to violate a contract that we have with anyone. And so we're selling it at a loss, but that's better than us dumping it on the ground. And I can't argue with
just
that.
one more question then. How come the city of Ocean Springs can produce the water for cheaper? It seems to be, that's what we're saying, compared to what you're charging for it.
We can't.
You can.
So it's going to be about the same, $1.40.
More.
I would say it's actually going to be more if you try to, and this is not me trying to be a salesman at this point, capital costs, a new well is going to cost between $1 to $3 million depending upon the depth and the amount of development of the water-bearing sands that you are able to find. One, you have to find a decent quality water. The aquifer that you find may have plenty of water, but it may not be the quality that your citizens want to drink. Because Jackson County, unfortunately, if you get below or close to I-10 and south, it's very poor quality water. I mean, you look at Pascagoula did an RO plant 20 years ago. Gosha's trying to currently build a nanofiltration plant. Ocean Springs has been fortunate in that you haven't seemed to have some of those issues. But if you go drill a new well or two to meet your needs in the future, you may or may not be able to find adequate water. How has JCUA been fortunate? Well, most of our wells are located in the Van Cleve area, going west towards Latimer. And we have some major trunk lines that were built back in 2010 to 2012. We recently completed a project through the Corps of Engineers to run on the west side of the county to bring water down from Antioch Road down into Ocean Springs. And you may or may not be aware, but Hanshaw Road, we recently had another Corps of Engineers water line project that we had initiated in 2020 that they just finished about 3 months ago to bring water into Hanshaw Road to Old Spanish Trail, which we're going to be able to utilize as a loop, but will also allow us to serve Great River. It's fortuitous timing, but it had long been in the planning process.
All right, thank you.
Well, okay, well, Eric, thank you. We'll start those negotiations out at 65 cents, okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Let's see, and our next presentation is from a group that I'm very proud of, and I know several others are very proud of. The Mayor's Youth Council, President Mr. Francisco, would you like to come up?
Good evening. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Francisco Valentine. I live in Ward 5, and I've had the privilege to serve as this year's Mayor's Youth Council President. For those who don't know, the Mayor's Youth Council is a student-led organization who serves as a voice for the younger generation of those living in Ocean Springs. The council consists of 30 high school juniors and seniors who are selected through an extensive application and interview process. When selecting members, we don't just rely on merit. Instead, we look for young individuals and leaders who are willing to advocate and create change within our community. Once selected, members meet twice a month and participate in team building, open discussions, and creative planning through council-hosted events. This deliberate selection process is what sets our Mayor's Youth Council from those of our surrounding cities. It makes us unique and creates a community of individuals that will work hard to create an impact. The Mayor's Youth Council has multiple goals. One, to bridge the gap between the youth and the surrounding community of Ocean Springs, to foster growth and civic engagement within our youth, but most importantly, the Mayor's Youth Council strives to leave a lasting impact by ensuring every member of our community feels seen, valued, and empowered to succeed. While these goals may seem overly ambitious, I'm proud to say we have truly set forth in each of them throughout this year. The Mayor's Youth Council has assisted in a multitude of city-hosted events such as Peter Anderson Festival, Cruising the Coast, and the annual Christmas tree lighting. We've even hosted our own events, including a lawn, which fostered a fun and safe alternative to a night out after a football game, and our family Christmas movie night, which allowed families to have an affordable and festive afternoon with a showing of the Grinch. As of today, the council has also completed 12 small group-led service projects, each of them individually focusing on a solution to concerns found within our community. The small groups range from greeting students at the elementary schools, community cleanups, positive messages on snacks for students, to even bringing some Mardi Gras fun with live music and king cake to senior citizens at assisted living centers. From afar, some may say these small group projects lack impact because they aren't being pursued on larger scales. However, I would disagree. The high five given to an elementary student made their morning a great one. The snack with a positive message gave a high schooler the motivation they needed to take on the rest of the day. The live Mardi Gras music made a senior citizen feel seen and appreciated more than they had in a while. This type of impact is exactly what the Mayor's Youth Council strives to do. I always like to say, if you can't change the world, change someone's day. And as members of this council, our goal isn't to solve every single issue in our community within a single year. Instead, it's to shape our future leaders, equipping them with the skills, connections, and sense of purpose they need not only to face what comes next, but to build the future we want to see. I'm sure I speak for the majority of the council when I say this organization has truly sparked the values and determination to take on each of my future endeavors. Before I close, we wanted to inform you all of our upcoming and final event of the year. It's called Grad on the Green. Grad on the Green is designed to provide high school seniors in Ocean Springs with an opportunity to come together in a community-wide graduation party. We're going to have music, games, food, and entertainment for all ages, and we hope to see you all there. Finally, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Amber Carter, for all of her guidance throughout the year and for trusting us to lead. We truly could not have done it without you. I would also like to thank the mayor and his wife Lori for their endless support of the council's endeavors. All this said, I'm confident that the Mayor's Youth Council will continue to foster a community of young adults who dream big, take action, and help transform Ocean Springs into a place full of opportunity and innovation. Thank you.
That being said, Francisco, I don't know how many of your board members you have here tonight, but if you would introduce them. This group of kids, they're very amazing at what they do. I don't think any organization in this city has asked for assistance that they turned down. They were there, they respond, and I'm telling you, I went with y'all to Jackson, and I was impressed, I really was. But we did get a little bad news, last week, and I was there when it happened. So our sponsor, Miss Amber Carter, she is leaving us. I pushed her on as hard as I could, but she has done an amazing job with you guys and girls. She stepped up when Raven left to go to Gulfport. She stepped up over and above her job. Amber, I just want to thank you very much. We appreciate you. We have a letter of appreciation for you for her outstanding guidance, leadership, and unwavering support of the Mayor's Youth Council. Her dedication throughout the year helped inspire and empower the next generation of leaders in Ocean Springs. And her encouragement played a meaningful role in the council's success and impact on the community. And we want to give you this. And on behalf of the Mayor's Youth Council, my wife Lori has stepped up to assist Amber in some of the events in Francisco. I'm sure Amber might want to say a few words. Well, I'm going to tell you, she took charge, and I'm sure those of you sitting here, many of y'all won't say it, but step up and say it. But I watched her in action, and she doesn't let any grass grow under her feet. She is on the go, and every event I've been to, she's been at. I truly want to thank you, and I hope moving forward, we've got somebody that's going to step up.
Sir, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to agenda public comment. The public is invited to address the board for up to 5 minutes each, for a maximum period of 30 minutes only regarding issues listed on this agenda. Please identify yourself and the agenda item. If no agenda item is stated, you'll be asked to hold your comment until the general public comment at the end of the meeting. Go ahead, Ms. Liz. Okay.
Thanks for having me today to speak. I wanted to come speak. My name's Liz Elmore. I'm speaking in favor of or about the bike safety workshop. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm repping my t-shirt today. I'm president of Ospreys. We are an acronym. It stands for Ocean Springs Pedestrian and Residents for Exercise and Youth Safety. And I work DOT contracting, so I love an acronym. So we started in 2020. Alan Stanfield is our treasurer and Lauren Thurman is our vice president. And we are just friends and neighbors that were committed to making Ocean Springs safer for ourselves, our families, for everyone who wants to enjoy the natural beauty of Ocean Springs. So we were inspired by a 20 is Plenty campaign that was focused on reducing speed limits in residential areas. So with the help of Mr. Blackman, we reduced 13 speed limits around town. There were residential areas that had speed limits above 25 miles an hour. City ordinance is defaulted to 25 miles an hour for residential areas. It was just an oversight. So we have been focused on looking at these low-hanging fruit kind of opportunities as a government accountant, I want to be a good steward of the taxpayer's dollar every time. So we always want to make sure that we're getting a good return on investment that we spend anywhere in the community, which is so special for pedestrian safety because you don't want to bite off a big $500,000 buy on a quarter mile of sidewalk. So we have looked at unique solutions for Ocean Springs in terms of our old growth live oaks. We don't want to see any tree cut down for a 6-foot sidewalk if we can make other alternative plans. So we were just really excited that you guys are holding the bike safety workshop. We wanted to offer up any help that we can lend. We've got years of research. We've done some projects around town, and we just want to replicate low-hanging fruit kind of opportunities to make the town safer. We've gotten a lot of feedback about e-bikes. E-bikes are a really fun, cool thing that's happening, but they also scare the mom and me every single day. So we had worked previously with Chief Dunstan. We look forward to an opportunity to work with Chief Dye on making sure that the kids are educated, that the community's educated. I know Mr. Wade, you see them outside the upper elementary often zipping around. So we believe that education comes before enforcement. We don't want to turn anybody off of being out, being active, but we want to make sure they can do it safely and legally. A lot of it doesn't look super legal. But I wondered if Ospreys could help out. Also part of the Parks Advisory Board, so if Stephen doesn't kick me in the shins, maybe we can help out there too. So just want to say thank you guys for putting this on the radar. I know it's a priority of a ton of folks in town. We started the, what did we say on our little signs? I can't remember now. Like something like slow down. But our slow down signs sold out like 2 rounds. So there's a lot of community support for general pedestrian and bike safety. So we thank you guys for putting this on the radar and look forward to helping in any way we can.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Anybody else on this side? There we go. Come on up.
I'm Ed Treehern. I want to talk about bike paths and trails, and I would encourage you, I see it's the next agenda item, to have a work session. A community like Ocean Springs, it brings in a lot of tourists, relies on tourist dollars. I think it'd be outstanding to have a marked, planned, mapped bike tour and area. I know safety is a concern, and I can speak personally from it, going to church Sunday morning on Cleveland Avenue. Young boy, about 10 years old, came out of his house wide open on an electric bike. And had I not hit my brakes, it would have been bad. And I've got grandkids that age that are wanting bikes. I don't want to take the fun away from anybody. But it's not a matter of if there's going to be an accident, it's a matter of when. I don't have a solution to offer. Is it training? Is it what? But on a positive, my daughter is moving close to us, north of the overpass there in the Cherokee, Glen, Davidson Hills, Lover's Lane area. The positive is there's a trail under there. The negative is you're liable to have a flat tire going across it. It's rough. I think it would be a great benefit to the community to provide, because that's the only one that I'm aware of, to provide from the north to the south. We had someone go do kind of a drive-through tour survey for us the other day. They saw 51 golf carts north, or they're more in garages and all, I don't know. 30 walkers, runners, and cyclists. And then you've got people going to eat at restaurants over there. So I would encourage you to just make that area a little better and safer. People coming over to the beach, coming over to the fishing piers, and those things. So again, I think people coming here from out of town that like bikes and all, it would be a great asset. and something unique, and a lot of cities have. That, you know, they know where they're going, they know what they're gonna see, they know how long it is. So, just my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Ed. Mr. Ed, we do have a bike trail and a planned map bike trail, the Live Oak Trail. I don't know if you heard me turn around. But there is one, we just need to make sure it's marked and usable. Do we have anybody else like to address the board? We got Mr. James?
Same old. Talking about the work session for your bike safety plan. I've almost ran into by them on the bikes, and it's about 7 or 8 of them, and they're just going like this is a free fall. It's just like the streets have become the way of life of doing any and everything, very crazy life, and specifically Government Street. They come from Washington Avenue. They got one person that comes from Washington Avenue. He goes all the way up to where the school is, office is, and he goes all the way back. He does it every day. And seems that nothing happens on that. On School Street, I'm trying to go out of our parking lot for Master Missionary Baptist Church. They're coming down School Street. They're driving erratic. Some have helmets, some don't have helmets, and these are motorized bikes, and they are just out there for a free fall, like that. The streets have become our play area. We've got these new motorbikes, and we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want. And education is the key. And our kids need to understand that in order to have these bikes, you've got to be educated on how to go back and utilize them. And the streets is just not for you to get out there and just run like you want to run. But that is what's happening with these bikes in Ocean Spring. I'm not against the bikes, don't get me wrong. Education is the key. People have to come down here and register their golf course. And they got to pay a fee. And some of these bikes are going 35 and 40 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, then you got senior citizens out there trying to walk, trying to get across the street. And they're even afraid to go out and walk now because it's just running rampant. And we can go back in and seriously get a handle on it. And hopefully, all of your HOAs will have a representative at the table when you go back in and put this together to go back in and talk about this and come up with a good solution and a plan. Because a lot of times we leave out all the different HOAs, we go back in and we make decisions, and then after the fact, we try to come back in and we've already gone back and put the cart before the horse. Thank you, Mr. County.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Do we have anybody else like to come up, Doc?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Albert Diaz. I've been here before. I wanted to know, did you all receive a public notice from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers?
Doc, are you speaking on an item on the agenda, or if not, we'll have to come back to the
I'm going back to the problem with the water and Ocean Springs Road property.
If you don't mind, I'm not putting y'all, but will you wait till the next round? That's not on the agenda.
The second comment.
The second comment, this is strictly just on what's on our agenda item. Thank you, Doc. Do we have anybody else like to address the board? Yes, sir.
My name is Drew Davey. I'm a resident of Ward 4, and I came just to talk kind of about bike safety. I'm an ER doctor, and I also have 2 young girls that are lucky enough to be able to ride their bicycles to school. My family and I moved back to Ocean Springs in January of 25 after a couple of years away. And 2 things kind of really stood out. One, much more traffic, and also like much more people like cycling around, which I think is great. But I feel like This kind of fact alone supports the adoption and implementation of the Jackson County Bike and Pedestrian Plan in 2018. But moreover, like a couple of months ago, working, an ambulance brought in a 14-year-old boy that luckily had been able to bail off his bicycle before it was hit by a car. He was fine, just covered in road rash, but it kind of made me reflect on my close calls with cars and worry about my daughters cycling to Oak Park every day. Subsequently reached out to Aldermen and Pfeiffer about making Ocean Springs more bikeable. I believe that adoption and implementation of that plan would go a long ways to that. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else like to address the board on an agenda item? No? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Discussion of scheduling a work session for bicycle safety plan, Alderman Piper.
All right, thank you. Let me turn the mic on. So I asked for this item for one reason. We visited it last meeting, and tonight's topic, I think, is just to get a workshop scheduled so we can move forward in a more practical way. I'd like, that we have a plan here. We wouldn't have to start from scratch. So it's a great base, and we can then take it as a board and see, how we'd like to modify it. Again, I mentioned the city's changed since 2018, like the annexation, the e-vehicle, bike, scooter things that we've been talking about so much tonight. So the other thing that we keep talking about with the JCUA presentation, the infrastructure, the old drainage studies, that's under the road infrastructure. So this is on top of the road infrastructure. It's our connectivity and how we move around our city every day for everyone, not just people in a car, people that take a bus, that want to walk, ride, and so on. So those things can be addressed. Same time, I mentioned before, I think it would be vital to have some key players in the workshop, like our police chief and public works and planning and those important staff positions. But again, it's just, I think I've already stressed, I'd like to update what we have and move forward in a way that makes sense for our city, and do that through a workshop. And if that means, like the Osprey group that was here tonight, or any other groups have some really good specific information that could help lend to this plan, I would welcome any experts in or outside of City Hall that would like to look at this with us.
The Osprey, they do have a lot of good information on this, Shannon, because they really dug in several years back and got this rolling. And
I also heard from Heritage Trails of the Mississippi Gulf Coast and Bike Walk to Mississippi, which I know the Ospreys work with them as well, and they're lending their support in any way that they can.
I think everybody's definitely in favor to
Yeah.
make it safer, walking in, biking in, running, which I don't do enough of.
And it's also, if we're looking at, I guess I didn't go far enough, under the road infrastructure, if we know we're having a big project there, we could overlay whatever comes out of this plan and say, well, if we're going to do this, should we now go ahead and build back? Correct. So you're not spending twice, and we're just being proactive.
And it's a long-range plan,
Yeah.
because funding is tough to get.
Absolutely.
To do a whole lot, but I think as we improve our streets, like you said, we can address one here and there and move forward. Yes, sir, Mr. Hammond.
Shannon, when would you like to propose on a date calendar?
Whatever y'all would like. I'm thinking,
I think getting the ball rolling on this is something that is very much necessary for Ocean Springs.
and it is ironic, when I left here, I did want to say it was spring break week, and we had just been talking about this, and I was heading past Freedom Field, and there was a row of 8 bikes that took the width of the whole street. And they're coming for me, and I'm in my correct lane of traffic, and they're coming against traffic, and one of them pops a wheelie at the last minute, and I thought he was going to ride up on the hood of my car. I'm not even joking. And I thought, wow, that's just a coincidence. We were just getting into this discussion. Anytime is fine. I'm ready to.
Why don't we ask you?
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I think the bicycle safety plan would be great. But you made a motion for a tree committee or a tree workshop. You made a motion for the last one last week. You left early on one of them, and then you was a no-show last week.
Right.
So I think if we make a workshop, a date and a time, we all need to be there to put forth the effort to do something instead
Well,
of
I
wasting
put 100%
everybody's time.
effort into everything, Kevin. I don't know why that's being discussed right now with a workshop, but I did have a family emergency last week, and I'm sorry I didn't check with you on that. But I think tonight we're talking about scheduling this workshop on the bike.
Well, I'm just saying, we all need to try to.
I'm saying I tried 100% every day.
Okay, why don't we let Lori send out dates, or a few dates, to get with everybody, and where'd Lori go?
She's with the youth council, but I'll let her know.
Oh, okay, to where,
That's fine,
we
she
can
wants to
pull
send it.
about 3 dates, and then we can figure out who all
Can we include Liz in that distribution? Because I really like her input on that as well. I'm sure we have her email address. Yeah.
But I think we definitely
I
want.
know she's a busy mom, so.
Shannon,
I
if
really
you
want
want
to
to
nail her down
contact
involved too.
other group, I will get them to you.
Okay.
To me and Lori.
But you know, it wasn't all that long ago, we were all running around on these streets with no helmets in our bikes, but just the traffic is so much more now. It's just, it is scary seeing those kids. I've stopped myself and grabbed the ones going through downtown, riding wheelies, and tried to stop them and say, please, stop.
And I've seen them with the cat and mouse hiding from the cops a little, no, didn't want to tell you that, but I think education is will go a long way with a lot of the kids that we just don't, or not
Can I add,
enforce.
we can include Chief Brick from Ocean Springs.
Yes, Marshall, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
He's gonna be great for helping with education aspect.
That's a good idea.
Thank
We'll
you.
do that, for sure. Okay, well, thank you. We'll have Lori send out a few dates and get everybody on board. So you can get that. All right, we'll move on to new business, discussion of public records request process and associated fees. Alderman Messenger?
So what prompted me to put this on the agenda was a concern and or a complaint from a citizen regarding the fee schedule for the records. I want the records to be as accessible as possible for everyone. I don't know what exactly the records consisted of that made it insurmountable to obtain those, but I've also heard complaints of delayed responses with records. So I want it to be as accessible as possible. And I really wanted this to be an open meeting for the public to comment, so that if they had questions or concerns that they were heard. And I did receive a lot of information from Ms. Vicki and Ms. Christine. It was very helpful, very informative, so I want to thank y'all for that. And they outlined it beautifully, how to access the records for people. So I just kind of wanted to hear from y'all if y'all felt like and I don't have a motion I'm bringing to the table today. I just wanted to discuss with everyone if you feel like, we're on the right track, if we need to make any kind of amendments to things. I don't know how far back are records accessible year-wise. Where does it stop, where they can't log in to see things? Where is everything scanned in as far back as?
If you don't mind, how about we just ask Christine to give us an overview of the whole.
Sure.
If you don't mind, Christine, would you please give us that?
I do appreciate you asking that. I mean, the records go back as far as the city, first of all. I wouldn't say that you can search everything with the search bar online. It just depends on what you're looking for, because we have lots of records in lots of places. So, you're talking about minutes and agendas, maybe. If you're talking about body cam videos, that kind of thing, you can't search them.
And those things I understand wouldn't be accessible. Those would have to be filtered, body cam, if I'm understanding correctly, things, like MBAs involving juveniles and things like that. But I just want to make sure that the general public has access, open access, that it would even be great if they just log in and readily see everything and not have to do any type of records request. But if there was some way we could opt out, citizens identifiers or something where they, obviously you can't have that present, but something to just make it very easy and accessible for citizens.
Sure, and I appreciate you asking kind of the process. So I prepared a few things just to kind of go through the process. Maybe that'll help answer some of the questions. So the process itself starts with the requester submitting a request. And we have several ways. You can submit via electronic on our website. You can download, fill out a hard copy, and hand deliver, email to us, to our public record box, or mail it to the building here. And since I've been here, the short time I've been here, I've seen all of those. We've had all those things happen. Just please note that emails to other email addresses besides the public record box are redirected to the public record box. Some of our emails are accessible just clicking on the website, but we always direct them back to the public record box. And the reason is for tracking and for accountability. And all that is based on the 2024 public records policy. I went ahead and printed that out and gave everyone there at the, on the board a copy. So once we receive the record request, the city then has 7 working days to respond to the person. And again, that's in accordance with the Ocean Springs policy. If there is a cost, we'll let them know right away, and the request is held until the person pays. And that means for a reasonable time. So if someone doesn't respond or come in to pay for months, we're going to consider that kind of a dead request, I guess you could say. But then another thing to point out, that the request, it's a public records request, so it must be for a document. We don't respond to questions. We're not required to respond to questions. I mean, I guess you can see that if you ask the question to every single person on this panel, the same question, you get a different answer. And we're not trying to speak for the board as well. So we answer you with a document. So the request is for a document. However, we do pull reports from our systems if somebody's looking for a report that comes out of the accounting system or some of the other systems we have, and that report is readily available. We go ahead and provide that. We're not required to pull data, however, and build them into a spreadsheet for people. Sometimes we do get requests to just pull a bunch of things, and you can put them in a column this way and put them in a row this way, and just provide the spreadsheet. We won't do that for the person, but we will give you all the documentation to make your own spreadsheet for the requester. The cost itself is based on the fee schedule, and that's approved by the board. The current version is $20.25. However, most of the documents that we send out are actually free. If you ask for a document, we can email it to you in PDF version, and you just get it. It's super easy, and it's free. We do charge for email searches because those are outsourced. The staff does not have access to search their own email, each other's emails. That's not something we do. So we have to outsource that, and we just pass along the charge to the requester. We also charge for USBs, the little jump drives, or CDs. Those are actual tangible items that the city has to buy, and so we pass the cost along to the requester. And then there is a charge for searches that take an extraordinary amount of time, and that's in the fee schedule. That's if you're asking for tons and tons of things that takes a lot of time, then we'll give a cost estimate, and if it's worth it to the person, then we'll go ahead and do it, but they have to pay a deposit up front. So sometimes there's some challenges, and this might help with some of the questions about why you can't just put a search engine for everything. There's lists of exempted items, and I can certainly go through all of them. They're in your MML book if you want to look at them, but some of the ones we get the most are 911 calls. We're not allowed to provide the audio of a 911 call, and there's certain confidentiality items, personnel records, those kind of things to think about. Another challenge that we run into, and I've learned that since I've been here, the short time I've been here, it's been quite interesting, but it really is based on what the requester asks. So when you go and look at what they request, sometimes we'll get, I'm going to assume the requester may want to try to give us like a clue of what they're looking for, and so they'll make it a super broad, generic request, hoping to make sure we capture exactly what they're looking for. So they'll say things like, all records A to Z, or make it too generic, so we're trying to capture everything and give them in some document and maybe miss the mark on what they asked. You know, we're not in their head. Another thing is sometimes flip it. They try to be super specific and give us, use these terminologies in quotes, use that terminology in quotes. And when you throw that into a search engine, sometimes those things conflict with each other and then we miss something. That has happened, and we try to catch it if the person provides me, how come you didn't send that to us, or how come you missed it? We'll go back and try to make it right. It's just the function of looking at a database for, using search terms, trying to understand what the person asked. And then sometimes there's things that have to go through legal reviews. We've had quite a few with the hot topic of the day, obviously the parking garage, and so we've had to do some legal reviews, and those take time. I will point out that what I've also given you is some of the other surrounding cities, their fee schedules, and they charge $200 an hour for if an attorney has to take a look at the question, like what they're looking for. And we haven't charged that, so we don't charge that. But sometimes you have to do a legal review. Couple statistics just for your pocket. We do keep a running total of all public records that have been requested for various reasons, mostly for us tracking to make sure we get them to people on time within the 7 days, and we haven't missed them. In 2024, we had 244 public records requests. 2025, it was 524. And so far in 2026, 122 as of yesterday. Some of the hot topics right now are body cams, again, body camera, code violations, permits, and we get quite a few requests right now about the parking garage. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. Again, like I said, a lot of the requests we get are not just pure minutes and agendas, they're videos, they're things like that, and those would be hard to put on a search engine just to search, but there's some instructions that Vicki put together in there in your packet too. And we're working to try to make it a little more apparent on our website. We've been talking about that to try to make it point people to where the search bar is a lot quicker sometimes.
What I was just thinking is actually have like a flow chart where it kind of basically explains everything, the steps, so kind of get a little bit better direction for residents and possibly what the fees are, so.
Just make it a little more apparent where you can see it right on the home page.
That's in your packet.
Yeah, that was very helpful what you gave.
But I'm just saying.
Hopefully that helps.
I think it did.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Christine? No? Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Does anyone have anything to pull from the consent agenda? If
I
not,
do.
You do, Steve? What number?
A,
A?
B, C, Y, Z,
Yeah, slow down.
A, B, Z, A, B, C, Y, Z, and double A.
Wow. I was afraid you was gonna keep going A, B, C, D. All right, do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
Approve the consent agenda except for A, B, C, Y, Z, double A.
Second.
We got a motion by Alderman Pfeiffer, second by Alderman Hinton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. All right, Alderman Phyllis, item A.
All right, I wanted to go over the contracts and the leases for the city facilities. And this particular one, A, St. Alphonse letter for fundraiser.
Steve, I did get an answer for that this afternoon.
I
for you.
did, I talked to Stephen
Okay.
about it a little bit.
Okay.
But I think we need to go back and just spend a few minutes on this. So I see where they're asking for a letter that we don't charge any type of fees. And I know we had worked on some contracts where we're supposed to charge an administrative fee or a cleaning fee. Of course, I think we're gonna have to go back and revisit that, because as we talked about it. But on this event here, so they were originally asking for 2 days, and they asked for a third day, and then no fees. And then, so it's a cocktail party. You know, I don't see anything about security. Just making sure that we've got some kind of contract that we know that the security is gonna be put in place.
Correct.
And so my idea on this, Mayor Cox, was maybe we need to come up with like a packet for every one of these. That way, everything's there, because if we go through these, it's hit and miss. We got this, no, we don't have this, we have this. So all throughout each one of these different events, that some of the stuff's there, some of it's not. So, you know, and I talked to Stephen about it today, but I just want to make sure, like for this event here, Stephen, do they have security set up, or are we not sure?
If there's alcohol present, they have a list of security companies they call in for running security, and then they call us, and we write it down to their security list.
So are we making sure that, you know, do we have a packet where we make, before this event, that we know that, hey, they booked this event and they have security?
Yeah, no, they all have deposits on file, and they got to hold of that contract when we pull the deposit.
So again, are we making sure that they have the security, or are we just, if they tell us, are we making sure that they're having security?
Well, we don't physically check it, but they call in, tell us who their security is.
Okay, so
we follow up.
they're doing that. And again, you know, Steve, maybe what we can do is come up with a packet, because I don't see anything, you know, here in front of us, you know, a lease or any type of contract signed. And again, I know we talked about it, but I just want to make sure that we're being protected.
We have contracts on file.
Steve, can I ask a question?
Sure.
You just said something that
Hold
made
on
me.
1 second,
Uh-huh.
Shannon, because I was going to ask a question also.
sorry.
This particular one, they were leasing for 2 days, correct?
Correct.
And then they were just asking the other.
When they're setting up.
Set up
They're setting
and
up.
clean up. So
That's what events
That's
will have
what
security.
the event they're actually leasing for 2 days.
Correct.
So what they were asking for without the fee, I think, was the added time and.
Yes, just for the setup day.
Okay, so Steve, I guess I'm asking like the bigger picture question. It looks like you're wanting something overall, a better packet of information, I guess, when we rent out facilities. And then you just said something that had me thinking, if alcohol is served and there's a requirement for police, does something exist in the packet that says I need to give this to the police department so they know that there's an event going on there?
They're communicating
Like that?
with on every rental. Sarah, who does all our rentals, she communicates with the police department, and they advise us on what we need.
When
to
it's
have
something
in place.
that, yeah.
But there's alcohol there, there's automatic security.
And I started a little bit of a discussion with Christine about looking at we had talked about a bottom line kind of administrative costs again. Remember, we were gonna look at, you were gonna take an event and kind of making an example of,
Oh, what? Oh,
we had talked about that.
like an analysis of
Right.
of the cost.
Right.
And that's a project that I'm.
And kind of get it more today's cost,
Yes.
something. Okay, thank you.
But we have
Bring it up.
the packet, and it's already in place, and that was the discussion today, Steve. Because you and I talked
Yeah,
about it
yeah,
yesterday,
spoke about it.
and that's all in motion right now.
Okay, because each one's gonna be a little, there's a few more questions I have. So again, I don't wanna keep beating this down, but so for 3 days, then they're asking for no fees, except for the administrative fee that we're gonna start charging in the future. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the St. Alphonse event. What are the dates on that? For April the 23rd, the 24th, and 25th.
To the 23rd.
I would just make a motion to approve item A.
Okay, we make a motion to approve item A.
Second.
And a motion by Alderman Tillis, second by Alderman Wade. All in favor?
All right.
Item A approved.
Second one, the Spring School District, so from 8:45 to 1 PM. And then I see now I see a rental agreement for this one. So that's what I was saying, you know, we need to make sure that we've got this packet that we're all using the same, so this one seems to be signed, and I see the administrative fee is actually being charged for this one.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve item B.
Got a motion by Alderman Tillis,
Second.
second by Alderman Stennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B is approved.
Item C. This one, I don't see any, I don't see a contract on this one.
May I?
Yes.
The contracts are done through Stephen's Office for Facilities and the Parks. The events, the special event is something that's happening they need a permit for. It doesn't necessarily involve the rental of a facility. It may be a park or something. This one, it's at Fort Marshall, and they do, I think, have a contract for this, but they also are have to have a special events permit because of the size of it and how many people will be there. And if it says special events permit, if it's a nonprofit, it's $25. If it's a for-profit group, it's $75 for that fee.
For 600 people.
And all of those things that you're discussing, as far as security and things like that for a special event, those are on the application, and they have to answer those when they turn that in. And that is verified before it comes in here and gets on this agenda. After that, we verify the insurance and we verify we have it paid for.
Yeah, again,
And
just.
those are for the special event rentals, not facility rentals, those are different.
Make a motion to approve item C.
Motion by Alderman Tillis, second by Alderman Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Item C is approved. Item Y. Alderman Tillis.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, so this one is gonna be for basketball. And I see that agreement was made on the 15th, and then today's the 21st. So, Steve, I know this happened once before, but we need to make sure that we get these in before.
And I had no idea they were having adult basketball league. So when I found out, I asked them to give me a user's agreement, just so y'all are aware.
Okay. And then, I guess, these contracts may need to be gone back over. So like, let's see, it says, number 10, the user will be responsible for collecting participant fees in the amount of $5 per participant registered. The fee shall be paid directly to the Parks and Rec Department prior to the start of the first game. Also, if it's being used as adult league, the user will be responsible for paying the fee for security to be provided at all games held at the Ocean Springs Sports Complex. So I guess I'm just trying to make sure, are we collecting the fees on this?
We don't collect fees. The YMCA, probably a little help with this, the YMCA doesn't pay us directly, they pay a fee a year.
Okay.
So we don't collect that, and that probably needs to be taken out of YMCA contract.
Yeah, and probably, again, that's why I'm looking back to this contract, it's
Also, it's not the 57 complexes.
Correct.
To go again.
Yeah, it was created at 6/19 of 19, so probably just another item that, we can go over and update. All right, well, I make a motion to approve item Y.
Got a motion by Alderman Tillis, second by Alderman Messenger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item Y is approved. Steve, also, they did reach out to the school to utilize their gym for practices also.
Okay, good. We're making improvements.
Item Z.
All right, just, another contract here, the same one, probably gonna have to update it. Let's see. So, kind of the same questions on that one, but we can work on it and update it. All right, make a motion to approve item Z.
Got a motion by Alderman Tillis, second by Alderman Hinton. All in favor?
Aye. All right, the last one.
Second.
Double A. This Dale Brown Sports Tacony gym usage. So this one here, Stephen, what are they using the gym for 3 days?
Yeah, it's a free basketball camp. He comes out every year and just works with their youth. I don't know him very well, but I just know he just played basketball for the University of Kentucky.
I looked it up, it's for underprivileged children.
It is?
They've been doing it for about 17
I
years.
never could find that.
Steve, this is one I help put on here every year
Good.
on the agenda. Dale and I went to high school together. He had a very successful career in Kentucky and played in the NBA, and he comes down and helps kids in the community.
Okay, I did a little bit of research on it, Shannon, and I'm glad you found that, because I couldn't find anything, because I was trying to look at this event, for 3 days, they're gonna take in about $10,000 or $15,000. And,
I don't believe they charge the children.
no, it's $100 a child.
I saw an article that was from.
No.
There's scholarships for most of the kids involved.
Yeah, so they're charging, $100 each child.
Not each.
So- Sorry?
Not each, some that can pay.
Okay.
If they want to attend.
Yeah, well, it sounds like y'all have more information on it. I did my research, and I couldn't find that. So, if it's to help other, children, for sure, but like I said, I didn't see that, for 3 days, we're giving it to them for free. All right, I make a motion to approve, item AA.
Got a motion by Alderman Tillis, second by Alderman Blackman, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, AA is approved. All right, department reports, docket of claims. Does anybody have any questions on the docket of claims? If not, is there a motion to approve the docket of claims?
So moved.
Got a motion to approve all expenditures are appropriate and authorized by law and spread the summary on the minutes. Got a motion by Alderman Dennis, second by Alderman Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You know what, I'm good. I'm about to say, I thought I jumped again. I jumped all the way to Z. Does anyone have any questions about the sewer adjustment? If not, is there a motion to authorize the adjustment of water and sewer account due to the finding that the customer did not receive the benefit of the utility and the excess usage was due to unforeseen circumstances?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Hinton, second by Alderman Wade, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we're at general public comment. Doc, your turn.
Back. Have you all received the public notice from the United States Corps of Engineers?
I do believe the clerk received that, did we not, Christine? I think you have
So I don't
that.
know if you all read it or not.
I've not seen it.
Concerning the land that we had talked about in previous meetings, the proposed activity at this point refers to 80.76 acres. Of that acreage, 432 feet, linear feet, a stream, and 35.41 acres of wetland are to be filled. So you got 30 acres, 35.41 acres of land that has to be filled, because it is wetland. They're blocking the stream, upstream, I assume, of 432 feet. When they put all these houses on there, where is the water going to go that was sinking into the wetlands and draining out the stream? There's no proposal for taking care of that water. Is it going to run off to everybody's property? Next point. There are 9 endangered species on the list on that particular point of land. She has the names of everything, including the sandhill crane, which all of us know about. The whole idea of the Corps of Engineers, I would assume, is a public notice to be informed to the public on the information of the cumulative impact of the proposed activity for the public interest. All factors which may be relevant to the proposal and the cumulative impact of the wetlands, historical properties, wildlife value, flood hazards, floodplain values, land use. What effect is that going to have on the properties that people are already living on that this water is going to go? We don't know. In the past, I may have been mistaken in thinking that you all knew this when you passed it. I understand that a permit had been requested and was approved for this project to go ahead. True or not?
Just 1 second, you got 2 minutes, but Amanda, I'm assuming he's talking about the project that's going through the county? Is that the project that we are talking about?
I can give you the location.
That's gotta be,
We haven't received any plans or
it wouldn't be,
application or
I think
anything.
that's the one that had been, it's going through the county process. That was before the annexation that went in. I don't think this one has come before us.
I have not seen that. I mean, if you want to leave a copy, I don't mind looking into it and getting back to you, but I don't know what it is.
They haven't turned it out.
Okay.
But go ahead, we'll get, you got 2 minutes, if that's where you were, she froze it, but, that's what I'm thinking, but go ahead and we'll fix
I
it.
would appreciate that this board here, members, look at this property, read the public notice before any permits are given out. And to my knowledge, very few people who will be impacted by this have been notified. I received this in my mailbox this week. The date's April 13th. Please, don't make anything until you know the facts. One of our presidents, which you may remember if you're old enough, said, you can agree, you can join them, but verify your facts before you give the permit. Verify the facts of this. And from my understanding, he's going to build 226 homes 50 apart from each other on this 80 acres. That's pretty close. Might be able to reach out and get some coffee from the guy next door. This is going to extend, according to this, all the way down to Highway 90. And they're going to have an access road coming out on Ocean Springs. I just heard a gentleman, very good presentation on the problem with water and with sewage. I'm looking at the flooding problem of everybody's property. I don't think there's been any 30 pieces of silver given out to anybody. But so far, this looks like the Barabbas of our project. Thank you.
We'll follow up with you, Doc. I really believe that's the one that's already going through the process, through the county process, and that wasn't coming before us. But we'll look at that and make sure.
It's in the city now, y'all. It's on your back.
They have the jurisdiction over that one, but anything new we would have.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Anybody else like to address? Yes, sir.
Stephen, Mr. Mayor, Aldermen, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. My name is Ralph Humphrey. I'm the president of Mississippi Gulf Fishing Banks. A few months ago, I addressed you all, and you very generously donated some artificial reef material. We had some reef balls and some culverts. They were all brought to one of our properties. We were this close to deploying. We picked a spot. It's FH10, Fish 8010, which is just south Ocean Springs, north of Horn Island. We wanted it to be in shallow water. Of course, the materials themselves are what we refer to as low profile. But it's more effective in shallow water than it is in deep water offshore. We thought more fishermen we'll be able to access it if we put it in FH10, they're closer to shore. So anyways, we don't have the numbers yet, we haven't put them in the water. When we do, we're gonna provide those coordinates to you guys, and you can do with them what you want. They will be on our website, both on, we have a Facebook page and a website, it's mgfb.org, right, MississippiGulfFishingBanks.org, it's a nonprofit, and you'll see a picture in there, it's all I got on my phone, but it's green, right? And it's a Fish Haven map. I'll show you where Fish Haven 10 is. Again, as soon as we get the numbers, we're going to provide them to you. And the only thing I have a question about is we wanted to name it after you guys. And someone had put it in my ear that you were leaning towards the City of Discovery Reef. I want to confirm that
That sounds good.
What?
That sounds good here, City of Discovery.
Okay. So in FH10, there's a lot of reef sites out there. Very few of them are actually named. But we will name this one, so it'll be City of Discovery, you guys' stuff. And I really can't thank y'all enough for having those to us. But as soon as I get the numbers, I'll be happy.
Thank you for giving us an update, appreciate that. I think Steve wanted the numbers before anybody, but he'll share them.
You'll have them.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to address the board? If not, we'll move on to Alderman's forum. Mr. Tillis?
I feel like I've just been busy all night long. I got a lot to say. Mayor Cox, I know I had talked to you about this, but I just want to put a little bit more urgency on it. So, because I've gotten a lot of questions on our parking downtown. So, I just want to ask the attorney if we could work on the ordinance for the golf cart parking and downtown parking. Once we get that done, we can get the signs put up. A lot of people are parking in different areas, and I guess we don't have an ordinance, so we can't enforce the parking downtown. So if we can kind of move on that as soon as we can. And I know, Karen, you had mentioned that Reynolds property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I drove down the beach the other day, and that property there needs some help.
Looks horrible.
Yeah, I know Mayor Cox, we briefly talked about it, and I don't know, again, if what's going to be our next move on to try to get that cleaned up, get that dilapidated fence that's there, it just looks bad.
The fence is definitely going to be done, but I'm gonna tell you, as far as cutting the grass, the last time we had the fireworks, I got them to get to cut the grass because it was high and we were afraid of fire hazard. And I got chewed out pretty good over getting grass cut. So I don't know how much of that grass you want me to cut, but I'd be glad to cut it.
July 4th is
I think it needs to be cut. But I think it really, the neighbors next to it really want it to stay in that state. So, like I said, they will allow us to cut it. Alan's crew is more than willing to cut it. But Stephen, we are already working on talking about doing the post with the rope to replace the fence.
That'll look really good.
But no, I would love to cut the grass, but I know they want to leave it in the natural state, so I just got to find that happy medium. How much of the grass can we cut without? So Karen, if you'd like to ask, I mean. There you go.
You're gonna make me ask?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just
Sure.
kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, one time it was cut on a regular basis.
No, I did have them cut it last time because they were down there and it was fireworks that coming weekend. They cut it, and oh my goodness. So I do think it's a fire hazard when it gets too tall like that.
Yeah. Okay, and then what about an update? It seems like we haven't talked about it in a while on the Fair property.
I can let Sarah address that real quick if you don't mind.
So we're just waiting on the water quality approval, and then we'll be ready to go to bid. So a few months, maybe. We're hoping we'll probably get approval by summer, but we probably won't start till after summer.
Okay. And then, Alan, another problem I noticed in that what we're having throughout the city is people are calling in that we didn't pick up their debris, and a lot of it, maybe it's construction materials that we're not supposed to pick up, fence materials, and so, and then they call and they complain to the aldermen or call up and talk to you guys. So What about the idea of, I can't remember who brought it up, Mr. Betterton, it might have been you, about leaving a letter? Because what they do is they think that we just pass them up for no reason. So if we could come up with a letter and we got a big old pile of debris, then we can just go simply just post it on the door. You know, the reason the debris was not picked up was because of the materials, hazardous stuff, whatever. But that just seems like it would just help solve so many problems.
Would it be better to put the ordinance in a newsletter or something and put it in a water bill, send to every house?
Yeah, well, whatever it may be, but I mean, you can see when you pass it up, you know, and you're doing your job, and then they call us up and say, hey, they didn't pick my debris up, and then we have to explain to them, or have to go out there and see what it is, and find out why we didn't pick it up. So I don't know.
I will say this, a lot of times Alan will notify me, and I'll have my code enforcement guy go out, knock on the door, or sometimes leave something written on the door explaining it. That's why it wasn't picked up.
But you know, door hanger's not a bad idea if they've got contractor created debris. Just to leave something that says this is not something you need to hire, get your contractor back to get this.
Most of it is contractor debris.
Anything else, Steve?
That's it.
Stina?
First of all, I want to say thanks for the speed limit signs on Russell and the leashing dog sign on Ward. And I have had several people calling me about debris pickup. Has the truck been down, or?
I had a truck down for a couple of days and I had a driver out with the flu.
Okay,
So they're about 2 days behind this week catching up.
okay. And I told him, I said, usually when you get behind, it's a truck issue or mechanical issue. And the other thing I want to discuss goes back to the parking garage, and I know some of you don't want to hear that, but we have some minutes from 2022 that have documents in there that are dated 2023. And I think they need to be it needs to be corrected. That's what I'm asking for, is a correction, because there's no way that these documents could have happened in 2022 when they're dated and notarized in 2023. And it would be the May 17th, 2022 minutes. They, I don't know how it was done, who did it, but they need to be corrected, because you can't have documents signed and notarized for 2023 that are sitting in the 2022 minutes. That just doesn't make any sense. We've all been told whatever happens in our meetings, the minutes speak for what happened there. And unless we have something that we can go to the future, instead of back to the future, go forward and do that, but I don't think that's so. So I'm asking that we correct those minutes, and you may or may not, you may want to look at it before then. So I'm going to suggest that you check that out and it go back on the agenda for the next time, because I think you would want to see that before you voted on it. If I'm not correct. Sometimes, I don't know what the situation is in that, sometimes you'll get a blank thing in the agenda to approve, and then once it's notarized and executed, it goes into the minutes. So that date is going to be after it's actually approved. Does that make sense?
How long of a time was it?
Yeah, what's the date?
A year. Well, I can read it. It's probably not the case because it's a year later. But July the 23rd from May the 17th.
Christine address that real quick, because obviously it wasn't done in 2022. It's stamped and notarized in 23.
Yeah.
So it wasn't being hidden and stuffed in there. It was done for a reason. So let's find out exactly what they found out, because they did research this after it was told.
So So I saw that too, and I went back and did a little bit of research. From what I understand, and we didn't have the same clerk team at the time, so I'll give you that right there. But it seems to be that the policy at the time was, when you have minutes and you're talking about a contract or proposal, something that needs to be signed, it appeared as if, instead of putting the blank one in there and leaving in there for longevity, eternity, once the document was signed, it was added to that packet so that at some time in the future, if somebody wanted to pull the discussion and see the document, it would be all there together. Otherwise, you would just have a blank one. I don't believe there's anything nefarious going on. I believe it was just an effort and the policy at the time to go back and do it like that. So I did my own research and I got some advisory to some of you know Dr. Jason Camp. I spoke with him to see is that a better way to do it, or is that kind of how they recommend you do that? What he recommended is going forward to kind of live in the moment, keep the moment just like you discussed there, keep things going as they are, but what you'll end up seeing is a minutes package with maybe a blank document in the agenda, right? And then in the future, once we get the final signed document, then there'll be another entry on, maybe it's just a consent agenda entry to enter that into the record. And that's what he recommended we do going forward. So we're looking at that, and that's what I'm proposing.
Because if somebody that doesn't know this process comes in and looks at the minutes, it looks pretty wonky. I mean, it doesn't look like it's realistic. So I think that, yeah, definitely, maybe something, a note or something written in there that shows that.
What were you saying, maybe
That's what he recommended.
add that back to the 2022 minutes saying, look at 2023, such and such when it was approved.
What you do is you put in the consent agenda to add that executed document into the minutes.
Right, I don't know how you go back and fix, I mean, we're talking about, you know, many years and different policies and different procedures going back to the starting of this city. So that would be pretty challenging to go back and review that and fix everything is what you're asking.
No, I'm asking going forward.
Right, going forward, we can do that. And again, the recommendation would be from, you know, the advisory that I got, the recommendation is to go back to that set of minutes. Once you have a signed document, and just put a reference in there. Don't put the whole document, but just stamp a reference in that file so that you can go, we have the final signed copy, look at the approved copy in these minutes. In the future, just cross-reference them, and so we'll look at an easy way to do that.
Thank you.
Going forward.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Steph?
I think that'll do it.
All right, Alderman Wade.
Thanks, Alan, for cleaning that easement over there on Woody. The walkway on Woody going to Alice Street looks real good. We just need to get that wire hanging down. One other thing on Kensington, that little area that needs to be cut maybe with a bush hog. It's kind of growing up. It's going right back to the harbor.
I think they could cut it Saturday.
I'll check it. If you did, thank you. If you didn't, let's get it cut.
But that's where he went Saturday.
Okay. That's all I have.
Same one you wanted to cut.
There was another one too. All right. Alderman Pfeiffer?
All right. Since we're talking about these artificial reefs, City of Discovery, where are we with the USM boat launch agreement?
I've actually got a meeting tomorrow with Mr. Smith wants to talk about that. I think what they've kind of put us off a little bit on getting it finalized because they received, I forget the dollar amount, they received titlings to improve the parking, and I'm thinking that might be why they're holding us off. They might want to address it because the parking is terrible right there. There really isn't any place to put your boat, your truck and trailer. if that's the case, so be it, but we are trying to get it finalized. David's been calling them at least once a week trying to find out where we at, and he kind of put you off last time, and so, we're trying to get it nailed down. Okay?
I was going to elaborate on that. Went by and looked at it, talked to maintenance and everything. They're restriping all boat launch with yellow, making it safety.
In the parking lot?
In the parking lot and along the sidewalk. So they're trying to get it all prepped out before moving forward, is what I understand.
So it sounds like they will allow for parking.
They're not saying we're not doing it, we're trying to get there.
They're moving it, the park. All right, Covington Engineering. What about that? I think in January, they were data dumping. I don't know what that phase is.
We are still waiting on those numbers. They were waiting on MDEQ, the numbers to be dumped in there, and I haven't checked on that as far as when it was. I'm just assuming they're gonna reach back out.
So you haven't heard anything
I haven't
since
since
January is last I heard?
Since that last email that they sent.
I just happened to see them in
But
Jackson.
they were just waiting on those numbers to be, they didn't want to give us anything with unfinished.
Yeah, sure.
So they're waiting on those numbers.
There's no update, okay. And then my last thing, recently Karen and I met with Amanda, and we were talking about a variety of things, but one of those was the Design Review Committee, and it's something that is in the UDC, and we are not in compliance with that. And what I mean by that is it's staffed with the internal staff, but there's spots for 3 residents that are needing to be filled. So I'm wondering if, I know we're advertising, I believe it's civil service right now, I don't know if there's any other, could we consider getting this back into compliance, this committee? Because it's important that we need residents on these boards.
Anybody have any discussion on that? I mean, I feel like it's pretty tight on them now, the way they operate, and I know they bring all the department heads in. I guess we could somehow
It's there in the UDC.
create a way where it can be reviewed by them, but
Yeah, and they are required to have specific backgrounds. It even states that. It's not just any resident. They need to have engineering,
I
architecture.
know you did some research on this.
I did. So, the UDC committee, basically is comprised, like you mentioned, myself. The planning commission would recommend a planning commissioner and, 3 more members, so
That's
we
good.
5 members. Basically, the committee, whenever you submit for design review, you submit is for commercial projects, apartments, of that nature, or, commercial projects that are applying for, addition, as 50% more than the square footage they currently have. When they submit that application, it's a design review application, comes in through my office, it does go through interdepartment reviews, including outside engineering. We are contracted with outside engineering firms to review that with us. Part of the application is a 50-page document, is design review guidelines. So each project would have to meet a minimum of 300 points in order to get approved. The approval letter would come through me. So what happens now, they submit, I do submit out to all departments, I do receive all comments from all departments. I do send 1 letter back to the applicant, and we go through several rounds of comments. I've never seen one design review give me 4 kind of comments. So the process can go on for quite some time. At the end, we do make sure that, I guess my department makes sure that they meet the 300 points. The design review committee, if you read from the UDC, it does talk about, they're enacted to look at the design aesthetics, make sure that they do meet and mesh well with the surrounding neighborhood, make sure that they don't have full metal fronts on the front of their buildings, and make sure the design elements are in there, which would coincide with the 300 points. So we, also in the UDC chart for reviews and public meetings and public notices, it does say design review advisory group. So we have been acting as a group and not necessarily have an actual committee that has been established. That's how we're operating now.
However, in the UDC.
UDC does mention design review committee.
Right.
So it's another conflict within the EDC.
And it's missing the resident participation, like all our other.
There's 2 different ways of doing it. One says a committee and the other says you can do it the way we're doing it now.
Yeah.
So it's a conflict within the EDC, just like the others that have been identified that we need to.
Yes, also, prior to me working with the city of Ocean Springs, I did have a ward development hat for 4 years prior to that. So myself as an applicant, I did sit through myself several design review committees, Gulfport, Biloxi, Harrison County, Mobile, Alabama, several entities. Typically their process is if you want to design something, you have to go through, they all pretty much call it Development Review Committee or Design Review Committee. You basically, some have an application process. Some post like Biloxi, post the application publicly on their website. You do sit in at a roundtable discussion. You literally have a department head from each entity, police, fire, public works, everybody's at a round table, and the developer is there with their application. So they do go around the table, each person does speak about comments, and it happens, you have to come back several times until you get released from DRC. None of the committees of those natures have, have residents involved. Biloxi, they do allow residents to be in the same room. So I've had before where I sat at a table and there's a back wall, back window. Residents were able to come in the meeting and listen, but they couldn't ask any questions or participate. They can just be there to listen. So it is definitely different, more unique than what I've seen in the surrounding areas. However, yes, it is in the EDC. So thank you for the question.
Anybody else have anything to say about it? Any opinions? We can definitely address it and go whichever way the board sees fit.
Let me know. I can help.
Thank you. That was all.
All right, Alderman Blackman.
Got two things. First, I talked with Chief Dye yesterday about a compliment I got on these two gentlemen sitting in the room here. Last week when the shooting occurred in Pascagoula, ran into their deputy chief in Pascagoula, John Lind, and he wanted me to personally thank you two for showing up from some training y'all had going on over that way, suiting up and getting out there and assisting. They really appreciated it, and just wanted me to relay that to you guys. So thank y'all for y'all's dedication. The other thing, I do want to make a motion, so this is clean in the minutes. I need to make a motion to include the executed location agreement with the production company for Marshall Park as an attachment to the minutes.
We have a motion by Alderman Blackman, second by Alderman Hinton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's all you got, right? Okay, Ms. Messenger?
I'd just like to thank those that came out on Saturday to help clean up on Ocean Springs Road. It was a beautiful day, and it was most enjoyable, even picking up trash. So I think it looks better, and wanted to check with you, Alan, on the drainage project, I'll call it, status on Southwark and Berwick. I think, if I remember right, we're waiting on
I think
supplies.
we got all the materials in except the grates. And they should be in any time now. They had back ordered in. As soon as they come in, we'll start cutting some things in there.
How long do you think it'll take to come to pass?
Probably a month.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Julie, how much trash did y'all pick up?
What, like 4 or 5 bags and a walker and
A walker?
paddle, underneath the bridge.
Do you save the paddle?
No. It's not the kind I use to kayak. I need a double, just one. More of a canoe.
That was a good idea. I appreciate what you did.
It was fun. So I can count on you for next time?
I actually put it down on my agenda, but the pickleball took over.
Okay, next time.
I'll be there.
All right, fair enough. That's all.
Julie, I know Alan told you a month, but please don't tell anybody it's gonna be done in a month, just
No.
weather and
I'm
everything
talking about
else.
just to get started. I ain't talking about.
Okay, there we go, that's more like.
I said come to fruition. I said,
That's what I wanted to make sure.
wait a minute.
I'm trying.
So, but they are out there and they're trying to address as much of that area as they can. And from what I'm hearing, it's helping.
It's better than it was. Just cutting that one ditch we got last weekend, it could've made a big difference.
They met with several residents and they're allowing them to go alongside of their property. I did ask one resident about clearing one of them and he said, wait a minute, I don't want that cleared, that's my privacy, so I don't know how we're gonna drain that ditch. But that's one that might.
You better be home when we go.
So, Yeah, some of those ditches will be tough if we don't have an easement through there. But they do have a good plan, and I think it's gonna work. All right, Alderman Hinton.
Got a couple things. Where are we at on the Porter Street replacement of the water line, Sarah? What are we looking at right now? I'd just like to get a date out there.
Right now, they are starting the work behind the well. They have to reconfigure the piping into the well from when the tower came down. So as soon as they complete that, they're gonna be doing some exploratory. They're planning to put the water line on the eastbound lane.
Okay.
So I don't have a date for that work to start yet.
So that's to be determined.
They're putting the shut-off in right now in the parking lot.
Second question I have is, got a few residents that are eager to have Russell finish pave. When are we looking at that?
So I will touch base back with Warren, but actually at this point we need to get Porter done first. Because we're tying into that valve on
that southern end.
Southern end of Russell.
As soon as they get that tied in, though, they can go ahead and pave Russell.
And I believe once they determine they can tap into the line that's existing out here, they're probably gonna start at Russell.
Okay.
So no good news.
One good thing about the residents on Russell, I know we put them through a lot, but they will have brand-new water lines from the well all the way down their street.
And that's the pipe that Eric was talking about earlier. When you touch one end, it breaks a few feet down. So.
AC pipe, don't even look at it. All right, so those are my two questions on that. One thing I do like to agree with Steve on is the Government Street ordinance for golf cart parking between Cache Alley and Russell. That is something that I'd like to move forward with. So Bobby.
It's been moving.
All right.
It's been moving. It just, we're waiting. It's been kind of snowed under and all kind of other stuff.
All right. And the other thing, I'd just like to thank all city staff for y'all's good job and continue on. And that's it. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to hit on that. I really want to thank our staff for the hard work and dedication they've been putting in. Everybody's really trying to dig in, pay attention, get things ironed out, and moving forward, hopefully we'll have our process in place and we won't have any of these questions and issues. So thank y'all very much for the work y'all put in.
I second that. Thank y'all for everything.
The Porter Street project, I think that's going to be a big improvement going forward. We did receive some money from the state. I don't know exactly when the checks will hit the bank here where we can actually start spending them, but I'm looking forward to that. And I think Haley's supposed to be bringing us a report on the final of what we receive soon. We are trying to go federal now and trying to work to get the money we didn't receive, like our Mary C windows, our water replacement and relocations, our public works relocation. We did not receive any of those funds, so we are actually reaching out federally to try to see what we can draw from there to make up the difference. But I'm telling you, it was a long process, and I've got to hand it to our lobbyist. She worked very hard and diligently trying to stay on top of it. So Carolyn, Sarah, I know Carolyn's not here tonight, but y'all worked very hard also getting the information to her so that she'd have something to go with. So thank y'all on that. Executive session. David, do we have anything for executive session?
One quick thing.
Okay, so do we have a motion to go into closed session to determine the necessity of going into executive session?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Hinton. Second by Alderman Wade. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Derek, how's things been going?
Chief, what's the chances of running some patrols on Cumberland? Those cars just speed up and down that road coming from those apartments. And you got a few kids that are out there playing. I watch it every day. I holler at them, but just when I was on my way up here, it had like 3 cars. Zoom, zoom, zoom. So I don't. Let's just say 4 to 6. I mean, I know it's just right. People probably stop for a little bit, and then 2 weeks later we got the same problem. But it's like that throughout the whole city. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have a motion to stay in executive session to discuss the leasing of land and Ocean Springs versus Garriga, such that open discussion is detrimental to the city. Motion was made by Alderman Hinton, seconded by Alderman Wade, and passed unanimously.